Good morning, everyone. I hope you had coffee. It's available if you haven't. Thank you so much, Tom, for that very inspiring keynote speech, and welcome. Welcome, everyone, for this panel discussion. We would be discussing about the upskilling of Filipino nurses to be competitive in the emerging U.S. healthcare trends and innovation. We also have the AHA slide. So if you have questions, you can just use the QR code. So it's there in the screen. While we are having this conversation, please do join and engage through our AHA session. And if you also would want to speak live, that is also possible. All right, so I wanted to get quick reactions from our panelists with regards to the keynote speech of Tom. So let me start with Ms. Beng.
Thank you, and good morning, everyone. And it's really great to be here. Thank you for having me here. And I really like the pitch of Tom earlier on because, number one, it's really looking at the global impact of the gap in terms of supply of nurses. So it's not really focusing on the US alone, but it's a global thing. So we try to think of options and solutions that would really not be short-sighted in terms of the options or solutions, but really looking at the whole of the universe, so to speak. So that's one, I like that. And second, in terms of really, seeing through the career path of people right from college or from the earlier days of really looking at building a career in nursing. No? So, because back in HEMAP, the industry association that I represent, we're looking at talent development, not just on a short-term goal, but also on the longer-term goal. So meaning for short-term, like we know that there's an immediate need for, let's say, medical coding, skills, etc. So we plug in training development and development for those types. But in the longer term, we see that we should start from college, from the nursing education. So we have attempted in the past to really revise the curriculum of nursing so that we are integrating more nursing informatics subjects so that everyone goes beyond just bedside. You know? So it's really learning. And I'm really happy to see the people who stood earlier on. That was really a revelation. And actually, it's a great revelation to me, though, because there is that opportunity to grow our industry because primarily our industry association, HEMAP, is really trying to promote the growth of our industry. And with fresh talents coming in and a lot of interest for that matter, that's telling us that yes, we have the growth, doubling in 6 years and even beyond that. So those are the things, the key things that I took from Tom's speech earlier on, and fantastic, yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Beng. I've jotted down notes in terms of the data sets. 100% of us students are evaluating if they really want to go bedside. 50% said they wanted to go to the US, and more than 50% of those who said wants to go to the US consider CPO work. So that's an astounding number. Ansham, do you have any additional thoughts with regards to Tom's keynote speech?
Yeah, let me also wear my HIMAP hat and react to what Tom said. You know, the numbers that Tom quoted, which was the 1.5 million in the outsourcing industry today, the target to go to 2.5 in the next 6 years. If you bring it down to the healthcare part of that outsourcing industry, we have about 150,000 FTEs in the outsourcing industry in Philippines right now. And the target is to take that to about 250,000. And where will those 100,000 come from is represented in this room. So to sort of underline what Tom said and what I said earlier is the future of a Filipino nurse is very, very bright. There are so many options available, which obviously Tom illustrated earlier. It's for you to figure out which option you want to take, and it could be really successful for you in terms of your career. Yep.
Thank you, Anshab. So one of the things that Tom also mentioned is the number of nurses that are in the US. So in one of the studies that I have read, 1 out of 20 nurses in the US are actually trained in the Philippines. So that's also an astounding number. So Todd, in your conversations with our clients in the US, in our hospital clients in the US, what has been their feedback about the Filipino nurses?
Well, look, I think it's very clear at this point, and it's been the case for years now. It's widely accepted that the reality is Filipinos play a huge, huge role in making sure that we have what we need to service patients, right? So that's not going to change. What I think touched me earlier, and going back to Tom's comments, and he articulated the reality of the shortage very well. But what touched me was, look, at least half the folks in this room said they weren't interested in moving to the US. So the real question is, how do we develop the talent here to make sure that you guys move into management roles, take advantage of those opportunities, and then continue to share your experience, not just coming up through university, but also as you move into associate roles, and then make sure that you're developing and that becomes an engine so that we never have the shortage that we have today, that can be solved at some point. That's the hope, right? So from a client perspective, it's very clear that there's an open acceptance, that's not changing, and they're excited. I mean, we had clients here this week, we'll have clients next week on site in the Philippines, traveling thousands of miles because they want to see this up close and personal. That's here to stay.
Tom, do you want to add some more?
What I would say is that the opportunities for Filipinos in the U.S. goes back 40 to 50 years. And I think that's testament that the model works. The education, the English speaking, the understanding of technology, it just transitions very well, but also just the critical thinking. So there's some things that can be taught in school, there's others that can't. Critical thinking cannot necessarily be taught in school, you possess it. It's part of your DNA. And that's what I think, you know, the U.S. organizations, our U.S. partners see the successes that we've had over the past couple decades, and they just want to continue to expand the footprint, both in the U.S. and leveraging our Philippines-based operations. The Filipino nurse has proven their capability over the past couple decades.
Right. So one of the culture shift, I would say, for a Filipino nurse is really in terms of how to adapt to like the U.S. type of serving of patients, right? So I know that in the U.S., the nurses can also decide, right? Not just the doctors, right? If you could just share more about it, Tom.
Yeah, so I think that the practice of medicine will differ for every country. You know, there's some countries where it's more of a one-to-one ratio nurse to doctor, and the nurse really doesn't do anything but administrative and taking notes, and the doctor does all of the procedures. In the States, depending on what type of specialty you're practicing in, your ratios could be 1-to-1, but they could be as high as 10-to-1. There's certain organizations that have run ratios of 30 to 40-to-1, but those are less subacute facilities that are more like mental health and behavioral health type hospitals. And so I think that the number one opportunity for a Filipino nurse as they transition into the U.S. is understanding the work environment. What's the expectations? How do you interact with the physician? What's the appropriate ratio? How do you balance a 4 or 5 patient load with a physician that is not actively involved every minute? And so that's the challenge as nurses transition into the U.S. And that's why you have to look to organizations like Shearwater, who has decades of experience sponsoring nurses, and we have the training and the preceptorship program set up with our hospital-based partners, so you don't go in and you're in the ER and you're supposed to know everything. There's a transitional period of 3-4 months, and then you will start taking ownership of more patient load and stuff. And so that transition period and that preceptorship program is really important. And I think that's the number one difficulty or challenge Filipino nurses that we've seen in the last 20 years has with moving to the U.S. The second thing I would just mention is technology is different in the Philippines than every healthcare system. And in the U.S., we have our electronic medical records, primarily a firm called Epic, which I'm sure you all are familiar with. There's a documentation, there's a learning curve for Epic. what needs to be documented, how do you document it. And so that's the other area that you learn as you go. But if you're all great nurses, you're smart individuals, you'll be able to adapt to that technology. It just takes a little bit of time, and you have to be patient and you have to be committed.
That's right, Tom. So, Ms. Beng, on a macro level, what are the key trends that you have seen from a talent development perspective? How are the other competitors or other companies doing in terms of talent development for nurses?
I think a lot of the companies would have specific training modules being offered to their employees as a good starting point, because a lot of them would depend on the clients that they have. So in terms of aligning their training with their clients' processes, systems, especially the US healthcare is a lot different from what we have here in the Philippines. So they try to align some of their training program as a quick, a short gap, a quick, gap resolution. But that's about it. So it's really very focused on that particular element in terms of supporting their own requirements, but not in terms of full-scale, wider scale training. And I think the key there is really starting it with involvement in the training of, or in the education side of things. No? You don't catch or you don't solve the problem at the end, but rather look at it from the starting point. And that's why we have been asking for representatives from the various companies that we have as HIMAP members in terms of helping us out, in terms of formulating a training program that works out well in the larger base of things, so that our students can really be offered those curriculum subjects that would be, helpful not just on a particular client or company in the Philippines, but rather they are good wherever, whichever companies would hire them. So I think that's what we are trying to do right now, asking them to participate and deal with education, Department of Education, CHED for that matter, so that we can really come up with a good innovative curriculum that would help the students, and especially as we are looking at the digital platforms right now. So, and that's basically why we want additional training, not just on purely the traditional platforms, but the new technologies, robotics, process automation, AI, and in fact, the EMRs, we've been asking the government to really mandate the use of EMRs for all the hospitals, because that's the starting point. It's foundational. And I guess we have been looking at, we've been convincing a lot of hospitals to use EMRs, because that's the easiest way to, one, resolve issues in terms of claims, because you don't resolve all those claim issues by looking at it on the final bill, but rather from the starting point. So the data or the information being entered by the nurses at the starting point. So even from the point of admission to treatment to discharge, all of these processes, the nurses play a vital role, so that it's not just the healthcare outcomes that are being improved, but also in terms of making sure that the cost in terms of providing the healthcare becomes significantly reduced, because that's a huge problem in the U.S. The cost of healthcare is really going up, no? So if we can help out by making sure that the processes are all properly addressed, then I'm sure everybody's having a good life in terms of the healthcare sector. So I think Shearwater has started out by making sure that there are programs, and I'm hopeful that we can convince the rest of the members in terms of really making sure that we have a bigger program for our students and the nursing practitioners in the long run, because that's the way to go. It's not just serving your own requirements, but looking at it from the whole approach, whole approach. Wow.
I want to add one thing from a talent development perspective, because there's been a major change in the market in the last 3 years. And one of the benefits of COVID is that organizations have adopted a work from home environment, and the government was supportive of that this past summer. And so what that does is that creates opportunities for us to dip into talent pools in provinces that we have not had a presence in the past. In the past, Shearwater had a presence in Manila and Cebu, and now we have a presence in 5 different provinces, and we're going to continue to expand the footprint in the Philippines. So work from home is really a great program that the government approved and was very supportive of, which will help develop that talent pool over the course of the next couple of years.
That's right. So let me pause and see if you have questions. Donna will help us on the floor, and if we also have AHA questions. So there's a first one. Is Shearwater CPO program only exclusive for PHRN, or can underboard nursing graduates explore into this program? Are there programs as well for other allied healthcare professionals?
Probably you should answer it yourself.
I was thinking that too. No, so we have several programs in Shearwater Health, and I would share with you later the BSN program. So we have the SOAR program if you are a BSN. We also have programs for PHRN. So Tofet will be talking to you more about the NCLEX Academy, also the Medical Coding Academy. So those are opportunities that we have for you. We also have positions for medical allied. We have hired pharmacists, rad techs, and the list is growing by the day. Anshum, do you want to add some more?
I think you've covered all. I mean, we get varying demands from our clients. And while largely the demand is PHRNs and USRNs, as Jen alluded to, we look at medical coders as well, and those could be either PHRNs or medical allieds. Other than that, we hire BSNs as well. So obviously, when you graduate from your nursing college and you've not yet taken the PRC exam, we continue to hire that profile also, and then the medical allieds as well. So the options are there. Please meet us in the job fair, and we can definitely explain that to you.
Just wanted to share, the other day we received a request to hire 100 BSNs. So for our friends from FEU, if you're interested, we would be hiring BSNs as well. All right, any other questions? All right, seems like a silent crowd, but before we end, I just wanted to ask our panelists. So, given all the things that we have discussed today, we have a room full of nurses here and all those that are graduating in June. So, what are your advices or things that you wanted to share with them as they tread on their career journey as a nurse?
Okay, I guess the first advice is really having the learning ability and learning agility. I think as we move towards innovation in practically all facets of healthcare, that's one thing that you need to work on. No? It's not sufficient that what you have learned in college will equip you with the future work that would come out. So I think you really have to have that learning, agility, and ability. No, that's one. Second, I think you need to open up your vistas in terms of where or how or what the type of work that you would want to pursue. And I'm quite happy, pleasantly surprised to see a lot of people standing up and really looking at the informatics side because. Or the outsourcing side of things, because we have a huge opportunity, and actually when we were looking at the roadmap study, and looking at doubling the counts of people that we would need to train and pursue work for them. I thought initially it was daunting, but seeing all of you standing up and really having that interest really inspires me and tells me that I think we're on the right path. And with the help of Shearwater and of course all the other members of the industry, I'm sure we will be able to provide work, employment, whether it be here in the Philippines or elsewhere, because we know that there's really a huge demand and it's all out there for us to take. And so just trust that, yes, everyone is looking at your future. The government also are helping out in terms of funding, training requirements. So in addition to what Shearwater has been providing, the government has been providing all of those. And even in terms of providing trade missions, meaning bringing out the good news, not just to the US, but all parts of the world, the good news about the best kept secret, no? The Filipino talent is really tops in terms of practically healthcare, not just healthcare, but all other facets of services, especially for outsourcing services. So, and so we're bringing out that good news so that there would be more opportunities for employment coming into the Philippines. So I think we are bullish in terms of making sure we are, that we will hit those targets. And I think with everyone's help, and with all the training programs and all the career programs that you have, I think it would be an easy sell for people here in the Philippines. So thank you.
Yeah, look, I'll be personal for me. I'm one of very few people in this room that's not a clinician, right? But the reality is we will all be patients at some point, right? So I'll never be a nurse, but we'll all be patients. I can tell you, in 2004, had my second son, and about 4 months after he was born, we found out that my wife suffered from postpartum cardiomyopathy. That was my introduction into healthcare informatics. It was, she needed diagnostic exams, whatever it is, and I quickly learned that there's a process for that, right? What does it mean to go through the process? So the fact that you guys are interested at this point in your career is very, very important. It's not just you being educated about the process, we're all being educated about the process, and it's a perpetual process. So having said that, the fact that we'll all be patients, I want you to take that seriously. I know you do. And whether you work bedside or CPO, the need is there for you. So I'll leave it there. I admire what you do, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Thanks, Todd. Tom?
Stay committed. There's going to be challenging days, there's going to be great days, but in the long run, think about the big picture. Think about what you want to do from a career perspective. And I think that's what the last 3 years has really demonstrated to all of the healthcare professionals, is that there's been some really, really difficult days. But in the long run, you're all heroes, and we owe a lot to you. And so that's what I would recommend. The other thing is, go about your day with two different words I'll leave you with. They're two values of Shearwater Health. So if you want to be an employee of Shearwater Health, it's important that you go about your day-to-day activities with integrity and treat your colleagues and your families with respect. And so integrity and respect are very important to be successful in the nursing profession. So think about those two elements as you go about your careers and your day-to-day activities from a profession perspective.
Before we move to Ansham, Tom, there is one question that has come in. Why would we choose nursing informatics versus bedside care if we already have NCLEX and we are an NCLEX passer and there would be better opportunity in US?
Okay. So the demand for nurses in the US is greater than just bedside. And what we're seeing is that there's opportunities for areas such as utilization management, case management, nurse triage, all require a US licensed nurse. In certain health plans and hospitals require that work to be done out of the US. And so the opportunities from a nursing career perspective are equally in high demand from an outsourcing perspective as are the bedside positions. And so that's what's really changed in the last 3 years as part of COVID, is that historically everyone thought about the U.S. opportunities for international nurses as being more bedside. Now they're more than just bedside. There's CPO opportunities. There's a significant shortage for health plans to try and hire nurses, and they're coming to us and say, can you hire us nurses that have healthcare informatics expertise? There's also some emerging trends that are taking place. Home health is a huge, huge opportunity in the U.S. Home health is not necessarily an adopted practice here in the Philippines, but in the U.S. it's gaining a lot of interest, and those are opportunities for CPO professionals to transition to more home care based positions as opposed to bedside. So there's a lot of trends that are occurring in the U.S. healthcare system that if you're an NCLEX passed nurse, you will have more options to pursue. In addition to just bedside, you'll have all these other options as well.
Anything you want to add, Todd?
I think he's covered it.
That's it.
All right, we have another question from Donna.
Yes, we have a question here.
Good morning, I'm Dr. Lee. I'm a doctor of dental medicine, a licensed dentist, and a licensed professional teacher as well. I'm taking up BS Nursing. I'm third year student right now at the Southeast Asian College. During the pandemic, I took the opportunity of pursuing BSN. So the question is this is for my classmates, because along the way, some are not continuing their education anymore because of financial aspects. So the question is, any scholarships available for financially challenged Filipino nursing students that may lead to onboarding employment opportunities after graduation? Thank you.
Yeah, that is the opportunity, and that is the target market, is we're trying to make the nursing school more financially easier for students that want to pursue nursing. And so the goal is, we launched this program about 6 months ago with 2 university partners. I have very high goals for this program. In the hundreds, if not thousands, participating in it from an annual basis. What we're doing right now is we want to test the program, make sure we have all the processes in place, and then start to scale it. Some of the elements that we're working on right now is we're trying to get U.S. hospital partners to become part of it. And so we're going to take it from just a subsidizing or paying or offering a 4th year nursing scholarship to how do we start embedding the U.S. healthcare system into the culture as well? Can we bring in some of our hospital partners in the U.S. to come work for 2 or 4 weeks and provide a curriculum and educate the nurses? Can they interview the nurses in the 4th year of nursing school to then know that when they do migrate to the U.S., if they so desire, they're going to work for that client? And so we had one of our clients over here about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we talked to them about this platform. And so I'm extremely optimistic that we're going to see more interest from U.S.-based organizations that want to help participate in this initiative, which will then drive the ability to scale it up and create additional opportunities for more universities and more students to enroll in this program. Now, one thing with the program is we want to really make sure that we are providing opportunities post-graduation, right? Because if you just provide the 4th year scholarship, but there's not a job out on the back end, it's not worth it. And so what we're doing is we're trying to get that commitment for employment in either bedside or in CPO as we launch this scholarship program at more scale. And is really going back to talent development and how we have to think about the talent pool in the Philippines going forward and how we can support it and grow it. So we're super excited about this. It's still in its infancy, but we're going to scale and grow it significantly here in the next 12 to 24 months.
Sir, may we invite you to our school, please? Because it's heartbreaking to see students midway their BSN studies dropping out.
It's
just
terrible.
Because
It's terrible because they made a commitment to nursing for a reason. They have it in their heart. Their families may have guided them in that direction.
Yes.
And it's sad to see people dropping out because of financial challenges. And so we have to think about ways we can solve for that, and that's what we're doing. And so I would welcome the opportunity to speak to students, not just at one university, but multiple universities around this. And are we recording this session? we're recording this session, so we could send this out to different universities to share with their students. I think the program is going to be a high degree of acceptance from universities as we really structure it. So I would welcome the opportunity, or Ansham, who's our country manager and COO, it's easier for him because he doesn't have to travel 11,000 miles. But he would be more than happy to go and speak at the different universities and talk about these programs.
Yes, please. We look forward to that opportunity. Thank you so much, sir.
You're welcome.
Okay, another elephant in the room. In terms of income, which one has higher salary? Is it the nursing informatics or bedside care? Ansham, you wanna?
You can go. I'm just going to say it depends.
Actually, it does depend. So the way you have to think about it is, what is your interest? I think, given having worked for 24, 25 years, I can tell you, if you make your decision based on earning potential, then I think you're starting wrong. It definitely matters a lot. You have to figure out what your interest is, which way you want to go. The earnings will come. So if you're interested in health and informatics, if that's what your interest is, think about it that as a career option. If your interest is to look at bedside in Philippines, then how can you do that? Or if you want to do nursing profession in US, how do you want to do that? Once you've decided that, the earnings can then follow. So for example, if you become part of the outsourcing industry in Philippines, you are starting at a competitive level from a bedside nurse in Philippines. It's pretty competitive. In some cases, it's higher. So earning potential is there. But let's say if you go to US, obviously you're earning in dollars. So you cannot compare your earnings in Philippines to the earnings in US, right? So again, going back to what I'm saying, think about it, what your career option should be, and think about on those lines, earning potential will come, right?
We're getting a lot of reactions, 171 hearts, 23 thumbs up, and 30 amused. So regarding the home health side of healthcare, will or does Shearwater have opportunities that lead to a career in the home health path? What are the benefits of pursuing a career in home health?
Yeah, so home health has garnered a lot of interest from a U.S. healthcare perspective during COVID. More was pushed outside the four walls of the hospital. We adopted different technologies such as remote patient monitoring to really treat and engage with patients in the home as opposed to the hospital. Home health has always been a sector in the U.S. It's been a market opportunity that has not transitioned well from an international nurse into the U.S. There's just some challenges and some things that are unique to the home health industry that we have to overcome. One, and this is a very small thing to overcome, but I'm just going to state it. Coming from the Philippines or any other country that we sponsor nurses and coming to the U.S., for practice in home health, you need a driver's license. And so you don't want to necessarily transition somebody into the States and give them a car on day one and say, have fun driving. I would never want to do it here in the Philippines, and I would not want any of you to do it in the U.S. either. And so there's some barriers like that we have to overcome as an industry. But at the root of it, home health is we're looking for educated and experienced nurses that know how to treat patients. And so there's no significant difference between home health versus bedside. And so what we're doing now is putting in place the foundation of the framework so nurses have the opportunity to be educated on home health and make sure they really want to commit themselves to the home health marketplace when they come to the U.S. And so what you'll see is I think you'll see more additional opportunities in the home health sector over the course of the next 1 to 3 years as the market continues to emerge and grow, and organizations like Shearwater put in place the foundation for you to have the education so you're going to be experienced and successful when you come to the U.S. I'm extremely excited about home health opportunities. It's an attractive market. You're not in the four walls of the hospital. You're seeing patients in their home. You're engaging with their families. It's a great market opportunity for everyone.
Okay, next question. What will be the trend of nursing informatics in the next 10 to 15 years?
Yeah, I'll jump in there. Look, healthcare informatics, just like a lot of other industries, extremely dynamic, right? So the reality is you're going to have some core components that remain and will forever be there, right? You're talking utilization management, utilization review, coding, et cetera, things that we've talked about today. But within those functional areas, you will have targeted approaches or specialties that you're focusing on. So here's what I what I think, you will see this industry continue to expand, right? I see no contraction. Now, the reality is artificial intelligence and other things are being introduced. That will continue to be the case, and frankly, I applaud those efforts. It's good for the industry, right? We need efficiency in our processes, but as an industry, the next 10 to 15 years, you will see continued expansion and other opportunities, both within the Philippines as well as in other geographies.
Ms. Beng, do you want to add?
I guess we always say that data is the new oil, right? In any business, data is important. And in healthcare, it's really healthcare information. That's really the currency of healthcare. And anything that deals with healthcare information is something that's very important, critical, not really in terms of making sure there are meaningful outcomes that come out of healthcare, the healthcare practice, but also in terms of all the things that come with it, from wellness to post recovery, etc. You would need data and healthcare information, and nursing informatics would necessarily play a major role in terms of providing all of those healthcare information that can be processed, integrated with other analytic systems, etc., so that it becomes a valuable source of information for running the operations of not just the healthcare providers, but also the healthcare payers, which are very important, because you cannot have just healthcare providers, but even the healthcare payers as well as life sciences. No? That's also another area where the healthcare information and nursing informatics or healthcare informatics would play a very significant role. So if you have knowledge in this one, and I guess there's a long way to go for you, and a lot of opportunities, and I guess, yeah, it's limitless, or in terms of what can be, the future for a person that's into nursing informatics. I think that's basically what I see in the future.
One of the interesting things that I've read is the drones that are delivering medicines in the US. So who knows, we might have to hire drone technicians delivering medicines. Next question. What are the best practices that the Philippines can adapt from the US in terms of nursing informatics, like digitalizing medical records or EMR?
What I would say is that question implies that the US is efficient when it comes to EMR and medical records, and we aren't. It's just reality. There's a lot of improvements to be made from the medical records and EMR standpoint. But what I would say is that the best practice, what I think a lot of organizations are evaluating right now, is how do you practice top of license? And what that means is a lot of nurses and the physicians in the US spend 30, 40% of their time during the day documenting, writing notes in the EMR. And what we're trying to drive for now is how do we take that off their plate and let them see patients, maximize their capacity seeing patients. And so organizations like Shearwater, from an outsourcing perspective, how can we take on that documentation task for the nurses and for the doctors, utilizing our Philippines-based resources? And so that's the one area that I'd say that the US is very focused on, because it's going to solve the workforce deficit, but it's also going to drive efficiencies into the overall healthcare system, is the PICA practice license or top of license practice.
Donna, just wanted to check if you have questions from our audience. Okay, let's move on. Is there any age limit to any of the programs?
No.
Enlighten us on the immigrant career path.
So the immigration career path, how we think about it from an organizational perspective is if you join us coming out of college and you're a committed Shearwater employee, you will have additional opportunities to pursue additional certification and licensure, as well as opportunities to go work in the US. That journey could be anywhere from 4 to 8 years in terms of obtaining the different licensure and then going through the immigration process. The immigration process that we use to bring nurses in from the Philippines and the other 30 countries that we have a presence is called the employment-based visa. It's a visa program that's been approved by the Department of Labor in the US government for skilled professions that have a labor shortage. It's an administrative nightmare. The filing to get an approval for an I-140 or the employment-based visa could be upwards of 1,000 pages. And so organizations like Shearwater take on all that administrative headache, complete the filing on your behalf, pay for the filing, and go through that immigration process and really hold your hand throughout that process. The duration could be anywhere from 6 to 18 months in terms of obtaining the visa approval and then identifying the right opportunity for you from a career perspective in the U.S. But it's a very heavily administrative, but it's worth it if you want to pursue something in the U.S.
Thanks, Tom. How does Shearwater train nurses to protect patient data from hackers and maintain integrity within electronic medical records or EMR? Ansham?
Great question, whoever asked it. It's great to be to understand that aspect of this business. So any information security has two aspects. One is the technology that we provide to make sure that the data privacy is there, the information security is there. And then the other aspect is the human behavior, which is the people using that technology. So in terms of what Shearwater does we address it from both these aspects. While we have a technology in place that monitors what's going on with our systems, what are our nurses doing to make sure that there is control from that perspective. But we also continue to do employee checks, training sessions, infotainment emails, things like that to make sure that our employees, our nurses are aware of the seriousness behind this. So it's as I said, it's a two-pronged approach, but it's a great question whoever asked it.
Thanks, Ansham. Next question. Are there opportunities from Shearwater to have a career in the dialysis area of healthcare?
Yes, we have placed nurses, if this question refers to the U.S., we have placed nurses in dialysis environments in the U.S. They haven't been in necessarily dedicated dialysis centers, but more so hospitals that have dialysis nurse needs. So that is an opportunity with Shearwater Health.
Next question. Can you give us an estimated range of salary that we can get if ever we get to work in the nursing informatics industry in the U.S.?
Yes. Join Shearwater, and then I'll tell you.
It's not a secret anymore by that time.
Let me say, there's a lot of factors that go into the compensation level. It is, it's based off of location. A nurse in New York City doesn't make the same as a nurse in, Bismarck, Montana. Bismarck's not in Montana. Bismarck, wherever that is, North Dakota. So the cost of living and where you live play a real factor in that, as well as the workflow in the position that you're working in the U.S. Now we have to pay what's referred to as prevailing wages. Prevailing wages has been determined by the county that you will reside in. And so we pay in accordance with that, so you'll be making the mean salary for a nurse in the U.S. based off of the county that you will be living in. What we're seeing right now from pay rates could be anywhere from $30 to $40 an hour. Plus there's opportunities to obtain shift premiums and OT premiums, so you end up earning about another $5 to $10 an hour. So think about it in today's market, low 30s to low 40s an hour in terms of market opportunity from a pay rate perspective.
Thanks, Tom. I think this is for Ms. Beng. You've alluded to this. Have you partnered with the government hospital in digitalizing or automating their medical records, processes, etc.?
Yeah. Okay. Since I earlier said that we have one of those programs that we are trying to advise the hospitals really adopt EMRs. No. Sad to say, a lot of hospitals don't have the funding, the budget to really to really install or implement an EMR. So what we have done, well, our company actually brought in a lower cost EMR, and actually have decided, well, to put it under a subscription, a low cost model, so that they can really try it out. So we've started out with the lung center, so it's being rolled out right now. So hopefully, with the success, we are trying to create a success story so that other hospitals can really adapt and take on the EMR path, because that's a foundational requirement. I think we cannot improve our healthcare system in the Philippines without an EMR. So we're trying, and so far, slowly trying to create that particular success story. But yes, that's one of the things that we are trying to advise the government. Yeah.
All right, so I think we have a lot of questions that are pouring in, but unfortunately, we need to move to the next segment of the program. Our leaders will still be here. You can connect with them while we have our lunch break later on. And so for the last bit, Anshum, you're the only one who didn't say your message to the nurses, so any advice to our nurses?
When I came to Philippines about 10 to 12 years back, the stories that I used to hear was that Filipino nurse does not get to practice mostly, in most cases, to their top of their license, or peak of their license, right? Some of them were working in call centers, some of them were working in retail industries. Chosen few that could work in the bedside or the hospital industry were mostly underpaid. Those days are gone, right? The demand for Filipino nurses is so huge globally that it's upon you to look at what options you want to choose. It's not just about a singular option anymore, and even in that singular option, the risk of getting underpaid, it's about multiplicity of options and how much you can earn in that process and learn in that process. Very quickly, a couple of weeks back, I was having a one-on-one with one of our nurse employees, and he told me that he was the one who launched the nursing education in Libya, and he had to come back to Philippines when the war happened. That's the kind of talent that's available in this country, and now since the industry is moving in a different direction, options are opening up, I think sky is the limit for Filipino nurse.
Very inspiring. Thank you, Anshum. Thank you, everyone, for the engaging conversation. Let's continue with our conversations with our leaders. They would be here until 1 o'clock, so please connect with them during your lunch break. Thank you so much.
May we please invite Mr. Kerry McNamara on stage, our CFO for a group photo.
How does Shearwater train nurses to protect patient data from hackers and maintain integrity within electronic medical records or EMR? Anshum?
Great question, whoever asked it. It's great to be to understand that aspect of this business. So any information security has two aspects. One is the technology that we provide to make sure that the data privacy is there, the information security is there. And then the other aspect is the human behavior, which is the people using that technology. So in terms of what Shearwater does we address it from both these aspects. While we have a technology in place that monitors what's going on with our systems, what are our nurses doing to make sure that there is control from that perspective, but we also continue to do employee checks, training sessions, infotainment emails, things like that to make sure that our employees, our nurses are aware of the seriousness behind this. So it's as I said, it's a two-pronged approach, but it's a great question whoever asked it.
Thanks, Anshum. Next question. Are there opportunities from Shearwater to have a career in the dialysis area of healthcare?
Yes, we have placed nurses, if this question refers to the U.S., we have placed nurses in dialysis environments in the U.S. They haven't been in necessarily dedicated dialysis centers, but more so hospitals that have dialysis nurse needs. So that is an opportunity with Shearwater Health.
Next question. Can you give us an estimated range of salary that we can get if ever we get to work in the nursing informatics industry in the U.S.?
Yes. Join Shearwater, and then I'll tell you.
It's not a secret anymore by that time.
Let me say, there's a lot of factors that go into the compensation level. It is, it's based off of location. A nurse in New York City doesn't make the same as a nurse in, Bismarck, Montana. Bismarck's not in Montana. Bismarck, wherever that is, North Dakota. So the cost of living and where you live play a real factor in that, as well as the workflow in the position that you're working in the U.S. Now we have to pay what's referred to as prevailing wages. Prevailing wages has been determined by the county that you will reside in. And so we pay in accordance with that, so you'll be making the mean salary for a nurse in the US based off of the county that you will be living in. What we're seeing right now from pay rates could be anywhere from $30 to $40 an hour. Plus there's opportunities to obtain shift premiums and OT premiums, so you end up earning about another $5 to $10 an hour. So think about it from in today's market, low 30s to low 40s an hour in terms of market opportunity from a pay rate perspective.
Thanks, Tom. I think this is for Ms. Beng. You've alluded to this. Have you partnered with the government hospital in digitalizing or automating their medical records, processes, etc.?
Yeah, okay. Since I earlier said that we have one of those programs that we are trying to advise the hospitals really adopt EMRs, no? Sad to say, a lot of hospitals don't have the funding, the budget to really to really install or implement an EMR. So what we have done, well, our company actually brought in a lower cost EMR, and actually have decided, well, to put it under a subscription, a low-cost model, so that they can really try it out. So we've started out with the lung center. So it's being rolled out right now. So hopefully, with the success, we are trying to create a success story so that other hospitals can really adapt and take on the EMR path, because that's a foundational requirement. I think we cannot improve our healthcare system in the Philippines without an EMR. So we're trying, and so far, slowly trying to create that particular success story. But yes, that's one of the things that we are trying to advise the government. Yeah.
All right, so I think we have a lot of questions that are pouring in, but unfortunately we need to move to the next segment of the program. Our leaders will still be here. You can connect with them while we have our lunch break later on. And so for the last bit, Anshum, you're the only one who didn't say your message to the nurses, so any advice to our nurses?
When I came to Philippines about 10 to 12 years back, the stories that I used to hear was that Filipino nurse does not get to practice, mostly, in most cases, to their top of their license, or peak of their license, right? Some of them were working in call centers, some of them were working in retail industries. The chosen few that could work in the bedside or the hospital industry were mostly underpaid. Those days are gone. Right, the demand for Filipino nurses is so huge globally that it's upon you to look at what options you want to choose. It's not just about a singular option anymore, and even in that singular option, the risk of getting underpaid, it's about multiplicity of options and how much you can earn in that process and learn in that process. Very quickly, a couple of weeks back, I was having a one-on-one with one of our nurse employees, and he told me that he was the one who launched the nursing education in Libya, and he had to come back to Philippines when the war happened. That's the kind of talent that's available in this country, and now since the industry is moving in a different direction, options are opening up, I think sky is the limit for Filipino nurse.
Very inspiring. Thank you, Anshum. Thank you, everyone, for the engaging conversation. Let's continue with our conversations with our leaders. They would be here until 1 o'clock, so please connect with them during your lunch break. Thank you so much.